And good morning, everybody. Looks like we finally clicked on live there. Um, Welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida Extension Service here in Hernando County. And joining me today is a surprise guest, somebody who's never been on here before, Lindsey Hacker. And Lindsey now works for Hernando County, and she's the director in charge of the Environmentally Sensitive Lands Program. So we're going to have Lindsey tell us all about what she does. And as always, if you have any lawn and garden questions about your trees, your bushes, your front yard is dying, whatever it might be, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them. But if you have questions about wildlife and frogs and toads and lizards and probably snakes and birds, you know about birds?
A little bit.
I know cardinals and blue jays. That's pretty much it. I can identify those two, and that's the extent of it.
I know the LBJs, which are the little brown jobbers, they call
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is the general term for the little guys. Yeah.
Yeah, so go ahead and ask those questions because we actually have somebody here today that can answer them. Our regular co host, Colby, had another pressing meeting that he had to go to, and Bernie is currently out sick. He wasn't feeling well, so our thoughts and prayers go out to Bernie to hopefully make a speedy recovery and be back on here again next Thursday to answer all your questions. Because I make him answer the really hard ones. I just take the easy
Well, that's nice.
So, Lindsey, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and just kind of share, what you do and what you've done in the past, basically.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Hernando County, climbing trees as a young kid. That's where it all began. I actually went through some photos last night, and I found a kind of embarrassing photo of me climbing a tree, probably about like 7. Yeah, I love climbing trees, being outside. I started catching grasshoppers and building terrariums for them. It was kind of an obsession at a young age. Just love being outside anywhere in like Hernando County. I have like a really special connection here to the Wiki Wachee River and Pine Island, and anything natural outside here was kind of my thing growing up. Then I went to USF for environmental science, and I studied there for a while. And in 2016, I got hired at Florida Forest Service for Withlacoochee State Forest.
Oh, okay.
And I was there for 6 or 7 years. I started in the gatehouse and visitor center. So just giving, the public information on how to get permits for like hunting and camping and the general rules and regulations and stuff like that. And then I was quickly promoted to ecology unit, where I really got all of my technical training. Where the main gig for the ecology unit was treating exotic invasive plants over 160,000 acres, lots of
Wow.
land, 5 tracts of land in 3 different counties, all different kinds of ecosystems. We got like the swamps, the sandhills, the scrubs, hammocks, pretty much everything. Yeah, so we would get on our ATVs and we'd like load up our herbicide. We'd do our like mixing rates, and we'd have all our data, and we'd visit spots in our Garmin, and they would be labeled, and based on the label, you could tell if it was an old point or a new point, and what the point was, and what I was expecting to find. And then we go there and we would treat the invasive exotic there, and then report back and put it in our data, so we could see what was working, what wasn't working. It was really cool to do different experiments with herbicide. We tried triclopyr in oil on coral ardesia, and we found that it reduced the germination by like 90%. So we didn't have to pick berries. So that was a really cool thing to do. I really love finding like the least concentration, like for like your biggest bang,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we did that, and then I met Colleen Werner. Do you know Colleen?
Yeah, yeah, I know her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's the biologist there, and she took me under her wing, and I still call her sensei. She taught me everything about native plants, endangered plants. So I was kind of her little helper on her special projects, going out and I owe a lot of my growth to her. She taught me everything. And then my interest in endangered plants just grew, and it was really nice to see what you're working for, rather than just seeing like monocultures, like ecosystems just taken over, and you're just like, man, there's like all this Kogan grass, and now I got to kill it, or but I got to see what I was protecting. Like, oh, this is a rare fern. Like, this is really important. There's only so many populations here, and I really need to fight to save this. So it was really a morale booster, rather than just seeing all the negative.
Yeah.
And then she passed on some of her responsibilities for her bat talks. She would do public outreach for bats, for the Florida bats, because we had a lot of caves in the Withlacoochee State Forest, especially in Citrus County. I think it was only Citrus County. So I took on her surveying. I would go in the caves and survey with the FWC biologists. I would attend the Florida Bat Working Group conventions, and then I would do her, I formulated my own bat talk that was anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. And anyone who requested one, I would go out and give a talk. And those were really satisfying for me. Those are probably my favorite days. Environmental education, I think, is really, really important. And then fast forward, now I'm here at Hernando County Conservation Land Specialist, and I'm loving every minute of it. We have 5 preserves. We have Chinsaget Hill Manor. Have you been there?
Oh, yes. I've been involved with that. I've been here with Extension for about 10 and a half years, and I've been involved with them on and off since I started. It's changed hands a number of times, but I mean, the building and everything, the property remains the same.
Yeah, I think the city of Brooksville now has the manor house, but we have the area surrounding it, I think, is what it is. There's Chinsaget Manor, and right now one of the things that I'm trying to focus on there is there's a endangered sinkhole fern in one little area behind the manor house, like in a ravine. And over the past few years, I've been going back there and like monitoring it and trying to see what we can do, because the shade in the canopy cover is coming down, and it's kind of affecting them negatively. And so the frond count went from over 100 to, I think it was like 48 when I visited it the other day. And it makes me really upset. So I'm going to try to do a little restoration and plant some cypress out there, so we can, instead of just having a shade cloth, which is a kind of our temporary solution right now. So that's my main project at Chinsaget. And then the big thing that we're working on right now in conservation lands for the environmentally sensitive lands is Lake Townsend.
I think I've been there maybe once or twice. That's it. Yeah,
they have, you can fish there. You can launch your boat from there. There's a pier that they're going to be redoing. There's a playground, pavilions for, like basic recreation. And then there's also horse trails.
I was going to say, I thought that you can ride your horse out there also.
Yeah. They recently did a hardwood sale where they took out all the hardwoods because we're trying to restore it to native sandhill for gopher tortoises. We're going to work on it being a relocation site for gopher tortoises whenever they come up in like development and they need to be removed and put somewhere,
Yeah.
A nice new home for them. So that is
Are you certified to move turtles?
Not yet. October.
Okay. I know that there's a certification for that, and you have to be certified to legally be able to move them around. You can help them across the street if you need to so they don't get run over.
Yeah, as long as it's like in the direction that they're going. That's like a big tip people don't know, because if you bring it back to where they came from, they're just going to try it again. But yeah, October can't come soon enough. I'm very, very excited. I'm working with my friends from Florida Forest Service to get that area burned soon. We're waiting on the weather. It was really, really dry, so we couldn't burn because, we didn't want to start any spot fires, and there's a lot of like people that live around there. So we don't want anything getting out. And then when I spoke with the forester the other day, they were concerned about the winds, the high winds. So
it's been very windy.
So you have to be within like a certain parameters for like wind, temperature, humidity, and all that for you to even be like considered for a burn permit. So that's probably the hardest part, moving along with the burning at Lake Townsend. But once that gets burned, we're looking forward to having Common Ground Ecology. There are these contractors come out and do like a vegetative survey, so we can submit our application to receive tortoises. So it's all kind of waiting on the burn. So yeah. So that's Lake Townsend. 3 other ones. We have Thicket Hammock. Have you been there?
I've never been there.
It's off of Centralia.
Yeah.
By 476 over there. It's really nice, shaded. The only thing there that might cause someone some tribulations would be like roots and stuff. So you kind of got to watch your step. And out there, I'm basically just mapping and looking for, the listed plants, the rare and endangered, and I'm mapping the exotic invasives because I want to get my pesticide applicator's license so I can go out there myself and treat them. But it's really, really nice out there, quiet. A lot of people like to walk their dogs out there on a leash. So you should take your dog out there. What was your dog's name?
Kashmir.
Kashmir would love it out there.
Yeah, here, there we go. There's Kashmir. There he is in bed. He's getting a little older and creaky, but he still likes to go out and walk. And can't go quite as far or as fast as he used to, but he doesn't let that stop him.
Yeah, it's only about, I think, 2.3 miles. There's 2 loops that come together, so it's not, that arduous. Yeah, Thicket Hammock is really nice. Then we have Cypress Lakes, and it's kind of near Sumter County by Ridge Manor.
Yeah, I think I know where the entrance is, and I've driven past that area a million times. I've never gone there and gone hiking. I've heard it's really good hiking now, like very diverse plant communities.
Yes, yeah, you have like the shaded like cypress swamp area, and then there's a lot of scrub where I found a lot of gopher tortoises when I went there last. It's really nice to see them. Can't touch them though.
Yeah. Need to leave them alone.
Yeah, we're working on putting a boardwalk there to make it easier for people to traverse on the trails out there. So we're gonna have to deal with like planning and drafting and all that, and then get it approved and all that fun stuff, so people can enjoy it a little bit more, have more access. Then we have Peck Sink, which is probably my favorite.
I'm very familiar with that. I've been to multiple hikes there over the years.
Yes. I'm very focused on getting some trails out there and some educational signage on the Stormwater Recharge Center, which is basically what the sink is. And I feel like every Floridian should know about the aquifer and how they contribute to it, and just how everything works. It's really important. So right now it's not open to the public. You have to reserve through me.
Yeah, I know. And I need to talk to you about organizing a hike for the Master Gardeners sometime, although it is starting to get pretty hot now, maybe fall.
Yeah. That'd be good. Did I cover them all? Is that all 5?
I think so. Here, we got a couple questions on here, so let me squeeze in a question or two.
Okay.
Vic and Cynthia ask about grass. They live in Spring Hill, and they have Bahia and patches of St. Augustine. So they have both. They have a hodgepodge kind of lawn. Only the St. Augustine patches remain green throughout our recent dry spell. Do you recommend St. Augustine? Bahia grass, when it gets very, very dry, will turn brown and looks like it's dead. But Bahia is very, very drought tolerant. So as soon as it does rain, which it has, you can literally stand there at your window and look outside and watch it turn green as it's raining. So it greens up and starts to grow. Having both for your lawn is fine. People who live in homeowners associations generally have to live under rules where it has to be 100% one or the other, or maybe they require St. Augustine, so you'd have to defer to those rules. But when we're getting regular rain, both will be green, both will look fine, and both will grow, and they should both be doing pretty well now given the fact that we've started getting nowhere near daily rains, but I know that it rained at our house several times late yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, just kind of on and off, on and off. So we're finally getting some regular rain. That's going to make all the grass and all the lawns grow. And we have Teresa in the background here. So she's putting up links for different various things that we touch on, like the Gopher Tortoise program. In case you're not really sure what a Gopher Tortoise is, or why they're special, or I cannot tell you the people I've encountered who just say, well, you know, somebody says there's a Gopher Tortoise that lives in my yard. Why don't you just move them to the woods down at the end of the street? And we looked at a house for sale once before, and there was a Gopher Tortoise living in the backyard. And she said, you can just take them to the woods down at the end of the street. That's what the neighbors have done and everything. I'm like, ma'am, you know, you're not allowed to do that. So not everybody knows that
they're so important.
Are protected.
Yeah, I didn't know until I started doing some Gopher Tortoise research in preparation for my October classes that they host like 250 species in their tortoise holes. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. So
they're very, very important animals because they help support so many other things with their holes and their tunnels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I have a number of them in my neighborhood, and the poor things, they go up and down the street. They love my lawn because mine is just bahia and weeds and fog fruit and whatever else happens to come up and grow there. I don't water it. I don't fertilize it. I cut it. I bag the clippings and I compost them, and they go into my vegetable garden. But I'll have the Gopher Tortoise come across the street, start heading through my lawn. He'll stop. I think I got pictures or a video, maybe. I'd have to dig for that, of a Gopher Tortoise that came in my yard, stopped and found a big old weed and just started ripping it out of the ground and gobbled it up. I'm thinking, hey, that's weed control. I'm not going to come out here and do this. I'm not going to kill myself spraying for it. I'll let the Gopher Tortoise rip it out of the ground and eat it.
Exactly, yeah.
And here's somebody who had a Gopher Tortoise and a giant soft-shell turtle who just laid eggs. Yeah, if you live on a body of water, a pond, a creek, a canal, whatever it might be, you can get the aquatic turtles that come up into your yard and lay eggs. So what kind of aquatic turtles? You know more about turtles than I do, so you jump right in here.
Turtles? Probably just basic knowledge that the difference between a tortoise and a turtle. A lot of people don't know is how turtles are for the water. Tortoises have more spurs, and they're built for burrowing and all that stuff on dry land.
And Teresa points out that you're a really good frog catcher also.
She's so sweet. She might be biased because I was doing her a favor, but they're doing really well. Yeah, the Cuban tree frogs. I got about 4 of them now, and I still have to catch another one that's out there.
We have a lot of them around. Unfortunately, it's an invasive frog. What do they? Don't they eat literally everything?
They eat all the native frogs as well, which is kind of sad. Really sad. Yeah. But yeah, they are voracious eaters. Voracious, whatever the term is. Yeah.
And they can get quite large also. I know we've had really large ones by the front of the building here.
Yeah, they're about 4 inches, I think, the ones that I have in my tank right now.
Yeah, I know.
Fatter by the day.
They get a lot larger than native ones. Mm-hmm. So if you say a really large tree frog, it's a Cuban. It's not a native one because the native ones stay smaller.
Right. I like to tell from the really cute big toe pads that they have. That's a big indicator for me that they're Cuban tree frogs.
Yeah, I've just never had the time to sit down and study and work with birds and frogs and toads and snakes. I know what black snakes look like. Every house I've lived in, I've had a black snake in the yard.
Black racer?
Yep.
It's never an indigo. I'm always is it an indigo? Which is, endangered, super endangered, very rare in Florida. And one of the friends of the Gopher Tortoise But yes, I always see a black racer. I actually stepped on one yesterday at Chinsagat. It was my first time ever getting that close to one. But yeah, super cute.
And we got another quick question here about what's the best and easiest way to track when to fertilize and harvest what we plant as far as vegetables and fruit trees go. Fruits and vegetables are going to be based on exactly what they are. So, generally, I mean, if you're getting your vegetable seeds in a little packet, it's going to tell you how many days to harvest. That's just kind of a general guide. If it says 60 days to harvest, it's not going to be ready in exactly 60 days. Weather kind of influences that. Rainfall, how much you water, how much you fertilize. I know, as an example, carrots, I think are supposed to take generally 60 days between when you plant them and when you harvest them. Mine always take longer. I have really good luck growing carrots, but they always take longer than 60 days. So the packet can give you a general guideline, and then just keep a notebook. Start a notebook and mark down when you fertilize different various things, and that way, if nothing else, you can look back when you did it, and you can plan out when you should do it again. So I'm not very good at it, but I know that keeping decent records can help a lot from year to year to year. If you have really good luck growing lettuce starting it around a certain date, you can actually write that down. It gives you something to work with in the future about when to plant it again, when it's going to be most successful. But always keep in mind that weather and rainfall, and then your care as far as watering and fertilizing, has a big impact on how well things do too. Yeah, apparently, black racers are friends to the tortoise, and Southern Reporter says that they love the tree frogs, but the BB gun loves the bofo frogs, or the bofo. Are they frogs or toads? The great big toads.
I've never heard of a bofo frog. This is new to me.
Yeah, they are. There's another. That's just one of the common names for them. Um, they're poisonous. They can be very, very harmful to pets, especially dogs that get a hold of them. So Cuban tree frogs and the bofo toads or frogs are poisonous.
Are they also similar to like sugarcane toads? Is that another name for them?
Yeah. The ones that get really, really,
Yeah.
really big. Yeah, they're also sugarcane toads because they were taken to Australia and released to help control pests in sugarcane, and they do a terrible job at that. But they reproduce like crazy, and it's another one that eats everything that's smaller than it is.
No.
So, cane toads, that's it. That's the most common name. So cane toads are, and Teresa has some information up here on them about how to, why they're bad, where they came from, how to identify them. So cane toads are another unwelcome one here too. Bassem asks a gardening question here. Can we grow lychee trees in Central Florida, and what is the best variety? I know that, what is it, Buford or Sweetheart are the two main varieties of lychees. And Bassem, I'm pretty sure that you live in Seminole County. That's really touchy for growing lychee trees because they can be damaged by temperatures that get down close to freezing. Even if it doesn't get too freezing, you're going to get a lot of damage on your lychee trees. And that can happen most winters in Seminole County. So you are literally on the line. You can try growing them. You're going to have to make plans in advance. How do you keep warm on a cold night in Seminole County? So don't know too many people who grow them in Central Florida. The furthest north, I know that people grow them around Lakeland and Tarpon Springs. And Tarpon Springs is just south of here in Hernando County. And people grow mangoes and I think lychees there. So you could try it, but that cold weather, when it comes, and it may not come every winter, but when it does come, you're going to have to keep them warm. And Teresa put a link to the fact sheet on lychees here. Have you ever tried lychees before from South
No,
Florida?
no. What do they taste like?
They're great. Kind of, it's a small round. It's about the size of a grocery store cherry, sweet cherry.
Okay, I like cherries.
And they have kind of a hard pink skin. You take it and you rip the skin with your teeth, and it takes a little practice. You pop the contents of the lychee in your mouth, and it tastes like berry, like really tasty. And it's got two seeds, so you got to spit them out like you do watermelon seeds.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of lychee tea, and it sounded fancy. I didn't know what it was. So thanks for clearing that up.
No, the fruit's really, really good. Gosh, people in Miami grow them in their front yard. Huge tree, flowers, gets tons of lychees, and then people have mangoes in their backyard, and you grow mameys. People in Miami, there's a lot of great tropical fruits they can grow.
And so many palm trees, yeah.
Here, it gets a little touchy because of the freezing weather. Just south of here, it's easier. Down around Fort Myers, they can grow all those things. On the East Coast, up around Port Canaveral, they can grow most of them because they're close to the water also.
Okay, so like it's kind of like how people have loquat trees in their front yard.
Yeah, loquats do great here because they like and they need some cold weather. I don't know how far south you can grow loquats, though. I don't know if there can be or are grown like down in Miami. So if there's anybody on here from South Florida, or Teresa, if you can look up how far south you can grow loquats. Loquats do great here. You ever done anything with loquats? Like I know Port Richey or Newport Richey every year has a loquat festival.
Do they really? That's
Yeah,
fun.
somebody told me about that, and I'm trying to remember when it is. I think it's around March or so. So big festival. People will make and sell loquat jams. I looked it up once before, and there's probably 30 different named varieties of loquats.
Wow.
So it's not just loquats, it's a whole bunch of different varieties, and they're all a little bit different. This one's bigger, this one's sweeter, this one flowers earlier, this one later. So a lot of different loquats you can grow. I've eaten fresh loquats, never tried the jam. I hear it's good. And Teresa put some information up about loquats here. So, hey guys, if you have any questions, lawn, garden, toads, snakes, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to get them answered here. So, you mentioned earlier that you work for forestry, I think, out there in the woods controlling invasive plants.
Yes, for the Withlacoochee State Forest.
You know, Colby did that for swiftmud, controlling invasives on swiftmud property. And I can't tell you how often I see on Facebook, on my phone, in different gardening groups, people will argue about invasive plants. So somebody will have Mexican petunias or lantanas, and they say, my lantanas are beautiful. They have the beautiful little flowers on them, and butterflies land on them and everything else. What can be so bad about them? I keep mine in a pot. They don't come up in my yard. So what happens when birds eat those berries and fly into the forest preserves?
Then the forest preserves are going to get the berries and the lantana's going to grow. You can't contain it that easily in a pot.
People don't understand that. I know, I'm sure you had a lot of problems with camphor.
Oh my gosh, yes. People love to plant that in their yards. It's such a nuisance. It's everywhere.
They do. I got a phone call from a gentleman who asked, how do I prune a camphor tree? I said, well, that's kind of a big question. I don't know. How big is your camphor tree? He said it's in his yard, and he doesn't know if he needs to have it taken down or just pruned back. It's gotten way too large. I said, they're invasive. They're unstable because they have a lot of codominant trunks coming up. They tend to, when you have a lot of branches in high winds, one might split off and fall on the driveway of the car, make a big rip down the middle. They're not the most stable things.
Yeah, they're great for shade, but other than
That's
that,
what he said. He
you
likes
kind
it
of
for the
smell
shade.
interesting when you grind up the leaf and you smell it. It's got a very aromatic scent to it, which is really cool when you're IDing. That was one of the things. If I was confused between if it was like a red bay or a camphor, I would just crush up the leaf and smell it. You could tell.
Yeah, camphor smell like Vicks menthol.
Yes.
Menthol
Yep.
rub.
Mm-hmm.
But he said his was so large that he got a quote once before to remove it. He's probably looking at about 10 grand to have it taken down.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's very
Dude, you have a big tree, don't you? I said, yeah, it's a big one. Because I know that large trees can cost $1,000 or a couple thousand to remove. Depends on how close to the house they are, how difficult it is. Depends on a lot. But yeah, I said, contact an arborist and they might be able to prune it back some. But you really don't want camphors. And camphors do get the little black berries. Birds eat them. Then they fly out over swiftmud properties, Florida forestry properties, state park properties. And then when they germinate and grow, you guys have to go out there and spray them. And it's a lot of work, a lot of expense. Who pays for that? Who pays for all this invasive control?
The civilians and their taxes.
The taxpayers, which includes me.
Me too.
So I always try to remind people that, if you want to cause the problem, you're going to have to help pay for it to fix it.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's hard to keep some of the invasives out of the stores too. Like there's no plant police. So you'll see like Boston fern and lantana being sold in the store, and it enrages me, but there's nothing really you can do but educate people on what they can do and what to buy and what not to buy, and certain like alternatives. Like for example, a coral ardesia, a lot of people like the red berries and how pretty it is.
They are pretty in a shady area. I mean, if you're hiking in the woods and you see like a little creek and the coral ardesia grown in the shade next to it, they are pretty. But they are invasive. They're bad.
They spread like wildfire. But you could just as easily plant wild coffee, the Psychotria nervosa. I like that name. It's like for wild coffee.
We have it right out the front door here. If you've ever looked at the native plantings out front, we have 2 or 3 varieties of wild coffee out there.
Oh, wow. Cool. Yeah, I haven't been out there yet.
So, yeah, we do a lot of education and a lot of classes, teaching people grow this, not that. Don't plant the invasives. Remove them from your yard before they spread somewhere else. So, always a struggle, always a problem. And a lot of people just don't. They might think that if it's pretty and butterflies like it, it must be okay. Not necessarily. Okay, Teresa found that loquats may be found growing from 20 degrees to 35 degrees north. Where is that? And are best adapted to subtropical and warm temperature climates. Loquats, subtropical evergreen fruit. So yes, loquat's going to do very well in central Florida, but I don't know how far south. But they do just great here. Really good landscape tree. Also, they're very attractive.
Very pretty, yes.
And Teresa's putting up information on coral ardesia, very, very common invasive plant here that once it gets loose in the woods, spreads like crazy.
Did you know that the berries come in different colors sometimes? There's white berries as well, and they mix with the red, and then they'll become pink berries that have that chinsiget. You can see it there, but I thought that was fascinating.
I think I've heard they have different colored berries. How are the air potato vines doing up at Chinsiget? Because I was involved with the initial release of the air potato leaf beetles up there
Mhm.
a number of years ago, and I put together a program called the Air Potato Patrol, where we worked with researchers from FDACS to take care of public education, and we recruited, gosh, over 500 citizen scientists around the state to give information back to the researchers at FDACS to figure out where are the beetles not at, how well are the beetles doing, when do they show up in the spring, because they didn't know any of that. So it's a great program. It's pretty much wrapped up at this point. But
Well,
how are the vines doing up there?
they're there. I don't see any evidence of chew marks from the beetles yet.
It's
Don't they?
early.
Yeah, don't they emerge August? Is more of a time
They'll
they
show
come
up
up.
as late as August, yeah.
Yeah. So they're there, unfortunately. But yeah, I remember you guys were giving out beetles to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a
Yeah,
friend.
well, they FTAX out of Gainesville was shipping them to people, and all you had to do was fill out a form and turn your form in, and they would ship them to you FedEx free of charge. They don't do that anymore. You know, they stopped a couple years ago at this point raising the air potato leaf beetles. Right now, they still raise the air potato bulbil beetles. They look the same. Technically, it's different species.
Yeah.
Um, Liliaceras aegina, I think, and they'll ship those if you have a lot of the air potato, the potatoes, the bulbils, the things that
Mhm.
look like potatoes. Here in Central Florida, if the air potato leaf beetles feed on your vines, as a general rule, that fall, they don't make air potatoes. We don't do air potato roundups around here anymore
That's unfortunate because it's
because
still
there's
around.
so few air potatoes, which is a good thing because that slows the spread of the vines. So they're shipping the new beetles mostly to South Florida.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Did you guys ever do anything with the Brazilian pepper thrips? I didn't really get to hear the conclusion on
They
that.
did, but I wasn't a part of that, and I have no idea what they did.
Okay.
I know
Yeah.
they released them. I don't know if they've spread. I don't know if they've had an impact.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like I would have heard if it was successful. But
Let me put on my list here of people to invite on as guests. We will have to have our Sea Grant agent, Brittany, on sometime. She hasn't been on here in forever. Um, and she was a part of that. We'll ask her
oh,
about the
cool.
THRIPS program. But yeah, I help with educational material for here in Hernando County. There's an ordinance against having Brazilian pepper and white lead tree growing on your property. If code enforcement sees it, they will give you a friendly note that says that you have to get rid of it. And we have a lot of it here right over on the coast mostly. There's some inland, but it's all over the
Mhm.
coastal area.
Yeah, I think there's a spot on US 41 that I saw some Brazilian pepper growing, and I was like, oh no, it's spreading. Because I normally see it along Highway 19 towards the west along the coastline.
If
But
you drive down Candy Line Road, kind of closer to 19 than Mariner, on the Hernando County side, there's a great big lake right along county line. And I think the entire lake is ringed with Brazilian pepper. And then you end up with spotty here and there Brazilian pepper inland. Just another invasive that we get to deal with. Kind of job security, really, because
Mhm.
every time you turn around, there's a new invasive insect, disease, plant.
Yeah, I have to check the Flepsy list. How do you know how many years they go before updating it for Cat 1 and Cat 2?
I'm not sure.
I
I
think
know
it's like
UF has a database now where every couple of years they retest everything. And then because there are plants that were not invasive before, but then they
Mhm.
retest them and put them through the tests once again. And what happens a lot of times is they become invasive in South Florida. and it's just kind of warning for Central and North Florida. So whether or not something's truly invasive depends on where in Florida you are. Some of these things, maybe in North Florida, it's too cold. They die every winter. We don't have Melaleuca here in Hernando County, do we? Do you know a Melaleuca?
I've heard of it, but I think that is
we're
more of a
generally
South
too
Florida.
far north.
Yeah.
It's all over South Florida. It's invasive down there, not invasive here because it dies every winter. It can't grow here. So UF has a database. The person in charge of it left to go work for another university. So the last I heard, there was nobody in charge of it, so they were not updating anything at the moment.
I know you can use Melaleuca for like creams and ointments, and some people try to utilize it for that. Huh?
They mulch the trees up. You could buy bags of Melaleuca mulch.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't spread by, like rhizome or anything,
Nope. Nope. That's a great use for a bad invasive plant. Grind it up and use it for mulch or compost or some other good use. Here, you can help me out with this one since you're a native plant expert.
Oh, geez.
What do you know about these two native plants, winged loosestrife and mauve mallow? I bought them in March, and both of them very prolific where I live in Zone 10B, which is going to be south of here.
I'm unfamiliar with these two. Do you know anything?
I don't. And that may be because they're not particularly native to here, but they're more native to further South Florida. I see Teresa's already put a link to the wing loosestrife from floridawildflowers.org. So they're going to have a lot of really good information on it. And Dave has a comment on he wishes somebody had warned him about Brazilian pepper tree on his property when he bought it 13 years ago. He had no idea how invasive it is, and now the tree is a monster, too big to cut down or prune. They can get quite large, and I know that a couple of years ago when they first passed the ordinance, I worked very closely with people from code enforcement who would drive through neighborhoods over there looking for these trees on properties and notifying the owners. And we went down through this one neighborhood and somebody had, I'm pretty sure it was a white lead tree, and it was huge. It was somebody's front yard tree. You know how normally you have a house and you have a yard, you have a front yard and a backyard. Most people have a big tree in their front yard. It's the big front yard shade tree. Well, theirs was a white lead tree. And it was huge. It's like, oh my gosh, that's a big one. So he had to go knock on the door and talk to the homeowner. There's an ordinance against this now. You're going to have to remove that. There's lots of things that you could replace it with that are a much better choice. If anybody ever needs information for Hernando County, recommended front yard trees, we do have a list on our website. So contact me. I'm going to have my contact information at the end here. And we can send that list to you.
Did you know that Brazilian pepper, you have to be a little bit careful when you're cutting it because you can get allergic reactions similar to poison ivy?
Yep. It's in the same family as poison ivy, and it has like a white sap that some people are really sensitive to.
So you got to be careful. Some people.
And I'm sure Teresa could chime in here because she's an expert with beekeeping. Beekeepers love Brazilian pepper.
Really?
Yep, because Brazilian pepper flowers in the fall.
Okay.
When there's not much else flowering. So if you're a beekeeper, it flowers profusely in the fall, and honeybees absolutely love it. And I even purchased as a part of a fundraiser a jar of honey. And another common name for Brazilian pepper is Christmas berry.
Oh, yeah.
Because it flowers in the fall, and then you get the little red, it looks like holly berries right around Christmas in December. So that's why people first planted it in Florida like in the 1950s because they want things to look like holly like they do up north. We need something with red berries for Christmas to look Christmassy. So
Right.
let's
It
plant.
sounds nice.
Sounds nice, and it was a wonderful idea. So I bought a jar of honey, and it says Christmas berry honey. I'm like, Christmas berry, that's Brazilian pepper.
Ah,
And it was good honey too. So not every invasive plant is 100%
right.
bad.
Yeah, like
All of them have
lantana.
something good about them.
Yeah, one of the invasives that I always felt bad about getting rid of was lantana because of the butterflies. It's like, oh, it's great for pollinators. It's doing something good. So
Yeah, and it's pretty flowers, and it turns into a good sized bush, and it's no maintenance.
yeah,
That invasive lantana, in the spring, just chop it down to the ground and do nothing else. It's going to grow back and flower. Um, the native plant purists and the people with the Native Plant Society hate it when I say things like this, but lantana gets beautiful flowers,
it's
and
it's true. It's true.
and white lead tree gets attractive flowers. It looks like the pink mimosa, but they're all white.
Yes,
It
yeah,
looks like
very
a big cotton
attractive.
ball. So all of these plants, they flower, they look attractive, whatever, but the bad parts by far outweigh the good parts. So don't grow them. Don't think that if you grow it in a pot, that's going to stop it from spreading far and wide, because it's going to figure out how to do that. Some of them, if you let them go, are really, really hard to contain and get rid of. Mexican petunia, if it's growing in your yard, it's going to take a couple years to totally get rid of it.
Mhm.
You're going to be out there with a shovel, a pickaxe, herbicide. It's a tough one to totally get rid of. So,
Right. I think that one propagates through like rhizomes, so it's underground.
yep, rhizomes and seeds,
Oh yeah.
both.
Oh joy.
So yes, Dave, we feel your pain when it comes to invasives sometimes, and when you finally realize it and you think, okay, great, I'm going to get rid of it. Sometimes it's easier said than done. Uh, if you put enough determination and diligence into it, you can win. You can be victorious over those invasive plants. It's just going to take some time, effort. University of Florida has a ton of publications on that, how to control them, the best way to go about controlling each one, because they're all different. Lindsey, I know that. Did you have to go out there and help control invasive trees out in the woods,
Yeah,
hack and
we did.
squirt, things like
We
that?
did hack and squirt, the cut stump, stuff like that. Then we did prescribed burning, which cuts down on unwanted hardwoods as well. So
Yeah, yeah, not Kogan grass. Apparently, burning just makes it angry.
oh, it does. Yeah, it enrages it. It's awful. Kogan is so bad.
It is, and we have so many areas here in Hernando County. You just drive down the road, and you'll see fields of it. And University of Florida researched that. So if you're ever dealing with somebody who has Kogan grass and they want to get rid of it, there's a publication online that tells you how to go about dealing with Kogan grass, and it has a schedule. Spring of the first year, do this. Summer, do this. Fall, do this. And it's a 3-year plan to get it under control. You can't get rid of these things. You can only control them.
Right. It's not very instantly gratifying. You gotta wait years and years. But once it happens, it's really nice. Also with Kogan grass, you're not. I've been learning that you only want to spray it when it's not dry season, because if they're like kind of in like a dormant state where they're all dried up, they won't absorb the herbicide as much, so it's kind of a waste.
Oh,
So that's a little tip, because recently it was so dry, and
yeah, no.
I have people that were saying that they couldn't spray the Kogan grass because it wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, I know generally with a lot of those things, fall is the best time to spray it because everything is moving down into the roots. Because I know with air potato vine, it's pointless spraying it in the spring and even in the summer because everything is moving up. And you'll kill a vine, temporarily, it'll just come right back.
Yeah.
So, so University of Florida does a lot of research on these different things. I even we had Dr. Stephen Enlow from University of Florida come to town, give a presentation for code enforcement and some professionals on how to control uh, white lead tree and Brazilian pepper. And he talked about hack and squirt, cut stump, all those different ways to control the stump. Some people think, well, I'll go out there with my chainsaw and cut it down,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll be it. It'll be gone. Nope. You're just going to make it angry, and pretty quickly you're going to have 10 sprouts coming up.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
And let's go ahead and knock out a couple more questions here. We're going to wrap it up in a few minutes. So any last minute questions, think them up. Go ahead and type them in. Dave says he has another invasive plant, the powder puff. So the pink, well, the pink powder puff, which has a round flower. It looks like a little powder puff that's pink with a little bit of white. And Teresa, I see, just put a link to some information up. There are a number of different varieties, but the ones he bought grew in all directions with sprouts all along the so-called branches. Had to butcher it to help keep it under control, limit the number of seedlings popping up all around the area where they stand. That's the problem with some of these trees, and powder puff is one, white lead tree is another, and there's a number of others. They're all part of the bean family. So they get flowers, and they have what looks like a great big pole bean on them. You don't want to eat it. It's not an edible kind of bean, but that's how they reproduce. And I know if you ever look at a white lead tree, look at the ground around it, you're going to see all these little sprouts coming up because that pod will form, it matures, it dries out, falls off, and shatters. Seeds go all over the place. So that's one of the reasons why these trees are invasive, is because they spread prolifically like that. But yeah, there are a lot of different varieties of what we would call powder puff plants, trees. So you need to get an idea of which one you have. If you ever have questions about that, if you send me a bunch of pictures, I can send them off to get the plant identified. We need pictures of the whole tree. So go back and get the whole tree, get up close, get the tree, get the leaves and how the leaves are arranged on the branches. If it has flowers, fruits, anything like that, very important you get pictures of them. They're very diagnostic when identifying them. So send them to me. I'll show my email in just a minute, and I'll send them off, and we'll figure out what tree or plant that you have that you're dealing with. And another common question here: how to rid your lawn from thorny vines that grow straight up from the ground, and they are greenbrier vines.
Are those native?
You know, I looked them up once before, and there's about 10 different species of them. Half are native, half are invasive.
Yeah, I know the gopher tortoise eats greenbrier, one of the things it eats. But saw greenbrier, I'm not sure exactly which one that is.
Yeah, problem with them is you need to dig them up. They have such a big tuber, and some you can look online and see people who have like record breaking. I've seen pictures of people who dug up tubers this big. Look at this. You know, I had this vine in my bushes for 10 years. I finally dug it up, and this tuber is like huge. They have big tubers. Spraying them only works temporarily. You're going to have to track down the vine to where it grows into the ground and dig it up, because that's the only way. Realistically, you're going to get rid of it and stop it from coming up. And Dave, yes, you can send me pictures of the Brazilian pepper. Although if you know what it is and I know what it is, you know, we all know what Brazilian pepper is. Not a really hard one to identify. But the powder puffs, yeah, because we have a lot of different things that we all call powder puff. That's just a common name. I'd probably send those pictures off just to get it definitely identified. Boy, and Teresa's throwing my email address up there. Here is our office phone number. So normally, well, today if you call, Teresa's going to answer the phone. Normally, you would also be able to talk to Bernie to help answer your questions. Like I said, he's home a little bit under the weather today, so hopefully he'll be back next week. Um, Everybody, please be sure to follow us on Facebook. Our short name is Hernando EXT. So, Lindsay, do you follow us on Facebook yet?
I am not on Facebook.
What?
So I know, weird, shocker. But are people able to access it if they don't have an account? Can they view the information?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that. If you're not on Facebook, but you want to know what we're doing, like what's going on, what kind of classes we have coming up, if you go to www.hernandoextension, all one word.com,
Oh,
that is a freestanding web page that has a list of all of our upcoming classes. We don't have a whole lot on there right now because we're going into summer. But when we start planning a lot more, it all shows up there. The information about the virtual plant clinic, what you're on right now, we do every week, that's on there. You should be able to watch it through that page.
okay.
I'm not
Good to
sure,
know.
but you can go there, and that's going to tell you everything you know about our upcoming classes. But for everybody who is on Facebook, we ask you to follow us on Facebook and please like and share all of our posts. Our Master Gardener volunteers have a nursery, and it is located right behind the Hernando County Fairgrounds, over right along State Road 41, going into Brooksville. And there is their address. If you put that in a GPS, it will put you within 1 block of the driveway. Apparently, some GPS gets you right there, right on the money. The other one, I think maybe Google puts you a block away. You'll find it is one of the few things that's on that street. So, Lindsay, have you been to the nursery yet?
No, not yet. I'd love to go. What are
Oh,
the
we're going to have you out there. We're going to have you do a class also. We do a big Arbor Day thing out there in January. We do Earth Day, so plan on next April having a table out there and giving some little presentations for Earth Day. We
Great.
try to do a lot out there.
It's exciting. Yeah, I'd love to go.
And it is an actual nursery, and all they sell is native plants and Florida-friendly plants that are going to grow well in this area.
Perfect. Nice and easy.
No invasives. So they're very, very good about that. If there's ever a question, we send it off to the experts at the herbarium at University of Florida to get it definitely identified so they know for sure it's not invasive. And Hernando County government has a YouTube channel also. Lindsay, do you watch stuff on YouTube?
Yes, I do, actually. Yes.
Well, Hernando County government, if you go to the little search bar up at the top, you're going to find their YouTube channel. And it's broken up into playlists. There's one for Florida-friendly landscaping. And those are mostly recorded classes from the last Florida-friendly landscape coordinator we had, Lily Browning. And she has over 100 classes on there. Each one's about an hour long.
Ooh, I got to check that out.
If you got questions, if you want to learn about something, there's probably a class on there that you can watch. It's a great source of information. I have my own playlist. I have a bunch of recorded classes on there also. So please be sure to check that out. And let's go back and check our last minute comments here. And Dave, now that you have my email, go ahead and send me some pictures. I'll work on it as quickly as I can. Everybody needs to realize that a lot of weeks I get kind of backed up. But by the end of the day on Friday, I try to make it through all my emails, return the phone calls, answer the questions. So send pictures. I'll take a minute, send them off to UF. Might take a day or so to get an answer. But we'll let you know what's going on. Oh, Cindy, I forgot. sent me some pictures of her cactus. Give me just a moment, and let me go into my email, but I can't get into it from this browser. I'll go ahead and upload those, and we'll show those pictures next week. She's got a beautiful hedge cactus, the ones that bloom at night.
Ooh.
And getting to be that time of year. We're heading into summer. Vic and Cynthia, you're both very, very welcome. Please be sure to tune back in. Am I going to be here next week? Yes, I will be here next week. This gets divided sometimes between myself and Colby and Bernie, and we're never sure who's going to be here, but there's almost always somebody here. Now, the week after that is the 4th of July. We won't be here. We're going to be cooking stuff on the grill or at the beach or out fishing or gardening, and you guys should be also out there enjoying some beautiful warm weather. And Anne-Marie says that she's been watching some of our recorded classes. That's great. Sarah, we do the compost classes every month here. So you need to contact Colby. Let me go ahead and pull up his email address. So go ahead, if you're a Hernando County resident and you're interested in our compost class that includes a free compost bin, go ahead and email Colby directly. There's his email address, and he will send you information on when the next one's going to be and how to register. They've been filling up pretty much every month, which is great, and we've been doing them every month. It's about the third week of the month, generally on a Friday, because I know that I teach the compost component of that. So go ahead and shoot him an email. And yes, that is for the rain barrel and the compost class. And he'll send you all the information you need to know. So you are very welcome. Let me turn off some of these scrolling things here. They're starting to make my head spin. So Lindsey, thank you so much. Gosh, it's 11:03, so we've shown pretty good time management here. Not bad.
All right. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. Are you going to come back sometime?
Oh, sure. Yeah, anytime.
Okay, great. You know, people ask all kinds of questions. We do get wildlife and animal and other questions that we can't answer. That's why Teresa is such a huge help in the background, because when I get that blank look on my face, she's Googling it and pulling up a fact sheet and sharing a link to help save my bacon, basically. So thank you so much, Lindsey. Thank you, Teresa, so much for your help. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. You are very welcome. Everybody, please be sure to tune in again next week. I will be here. I'm sure other people will be here too. I'm just not sure exactly who yet. We'll figure that all out. We got a whole week to work on that. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. If you guys didn't come on here, we probably wouldn't be doing this. We enjoy it very much. You know, I mentioned Lindsey. This past April, we had our 4-year anniversary of doing this.
Congratulations.
I know, that's pretty. Every year we have a celebration.
Oh, you better.
It usually gets pretty interesting. So
I bet.
Okay, thanks so much, guys. We're going to go, but hopefully we'll see you all back here again next week. And until then, everybody take care. See you then. Bye.